Hey everyone, so I am pulled over on the side of the road. I wanted to show you what's behind me, which is a solar cell farm. I guess you could say there's like little panels, and then over there is some of the electrical infrastructure for the panels, and I think it's kind of cool. We have a project site that's nearby, and I had said, hey, what's going on over there? And somebody had said, oh yeah, it's a little solar panel farm, which I think is really cool. So I wanted to show you guys that, and I do my chat with Andy here before I head back home. It's been a pretty long week, actually. It went by fast. I was trying to take it slow in terms of like not overloading myself with work, which means I've still got a lot of things to do and I have to drive. But it was fun being on site this time. So, I mean, it generally is. Sometimes I come to site and I don't actually get out and see anything that's happening in construction, but this time I got to go out and see what was happening. We had somebody from the client that was in for a negotiation with the contractor, and this guy loves negotiating, and so it's kind of fun to just see him in his element and witness the negotiation. I was glad that I was not on the other side of the table for that one. We actually work with somebody who back 10 or 20 years ago or whatever it was, that this guy worked for TxDOT, and we, or him and his firm at the time, was negotiating with the same guy on the other side of the table, and he was like, yeah, I don't remember that being very fun. The guy is good. So it was very neat to see that. I hope this guy can get out behind me. Oh yeah, he doesn't have a problem. I'm like in a little construction entrance here next to solar panels. So yeah, I went on a little interview with a person who is writing a book on Ada Lovelace and Ada and pop culture, and so that was fun. It was on Mardi Gras, so we went to a vegan bakery and had beignets and talked about Ada Lovelace and about diversity and women in diversity, and so that was fun. And I've been slowly working on putting together my application, because we've got an international internship program within my company, and so you apply for the requisitions and then they see if you're qualified for any of them. So I've been putting together my cover letter and my resume for that, and I will upload it onto my blog later just so you can see what I've put together and how it kind of looks. It'll be different than a resume that you put together for a company, because this one is all internal, so I put my picture on it, on personal details in my cover letter that it wouldn't typically put on something I was submitting for a new job, just because a lot of companies have diversity best practices where they don't accept resumes that have photos on them. And so yeah, this will look a little bit different, but I think it'd be interesting for you guys, and I don't often put together a cover letter, and this one's like 3 pages, 4 pages, whatever it is. So I'll upload that and show you guys how that is. I wrote a piece on burnout. Actually, I've written it a couple times now, and I keep trying to decide if it's useful for you guys to read that, or if it's just me belly aching, which sometimes you have to do, and then put it in an email and then delete the email. So I'm trying to decide if it's something that is useful for me to upload, if there are people that I talk about in it that I need to scrub details out of, just, to be respectful of them. But yeah, it was a long week last week, just being like overcommitted on things, and so I went through the process of telling a bunch of people, like, I can't focus on that, I can't do that. So I had a gala that was coming up next week. There was just so much travel for one dinner that was associated with the New Faces of Engineering that I had received, and so I decided finally that I'm not going to go do that. I've been listening to Happiness Advantage, which actually I was telling the guy who's negotiating about it this morning. And we were just like talking about how there's neuroplasticity is a thing. Your brain can change over time, and you can make yourself happier. And so, during the negotiation, he kept bringing up happiness, and then he would like look over and smile. He'd be like, "So, for us to be happy here, what do we need to do?" And then by the end of the negotiation, the contractor was like, "Let's raise the level of happiness in this room." So then everybody like had this inside joke about being happy, and yeah, it was fun. I think it was fun for the contractor too, because we came to like a really good conclusion. Like, that is how negotiations should go. So it was a great experience. I really enjoyed that. Also because I was just like sitting there, I'm managing the designers, the engineers. And so I need to know schedule and stuff for when I need to have my engineers on site, and what was the intent of the design. But the client really knows all the pieces and how it goes together and how it impacts them if something is not on schedule with their permit with the Army Corps. They have to make sure that they can sign off on the permit, and part of the contractor having substantially completed their project goes into that permit, and if they don't substantially complete their project by a certain day, they get charged liquidated damages. And so they all had a stake in the game, and I was sitting there mostly for my information so that I can then go and direct my team and manage my team better, and support if they needed it, but they have it covered. They didn't really need my support. So yeah, that was interesting. So that's what I've done this week. Is I've been on site. I've got a few engineers that are kind of running in circles with their design. They had all these options. They narrowed it down. Had all these options again. They narrowed it down again. All these. You guys are wasting budget. So, and the client said something to me, so I need to call them up and have a direct conversation. And I already talked to the QC person, who's very senior. Oh, there are cows. A very senior retired engineer who is part-time on this project and a couple other projects, and I got his advice, and I need to talk to the project manager, and yeah, that's how it's going this week. So I've even had some time to read a book. I finished Mistborn, the first one, so now I'm on the second one, because that's what happens when you kill off my favorite characters. I just read the next book. Even though I'm mad that you killed off my favorite characters, which I didn't think Brandon Sanderson killed off characters that easily. He tends to write like a very guilty pleasure fantasy book. But anyway, I normally don't read them. I just listen to the audiobooks. Like, I'm listening to the Happiness Advantage on audiobook. And I went online last night and took my strengths, my value strengths test to figure out like what I need to implement in my life. There's something that I just enjoy doing that I can do more of. And I got creativity is number 1 and curiosity is number 2, which is interesting because as an engineer I didn't get like learning new material or learning new things. I didn't get being results oriented, which I would have expected myself getting. I got curiosity and creativity, and I've just gone through the process of like stopping a lot of the hobbies that I had that started to feel like chores, trying to finish them while I was burnt out, and then being like, oh, I'm behind on this scrapbook. Now this is feeling like work, then I'm behind, and I'm stressed out from being behind on my hobby because I've done all these other vacations that I haven't scrapbooked. But then I saw that creativity and curiosity, and I was like, I need to bring that hobby back, and maybe I'll finish my book for my trip to Asia this weekend. It was about halfway done. It will take much longer than a weekend to finish, but yeah, maybe I need to spend some more time doing that, just to find some happiness, raise the level of happiness. So that's my plans for the weekend. I hope you guys have a great weekend. Let me know in the comments what you guys have for this weekend. South by Southwest is coming up in Austin, so it's going to be happening in the city. A little bummed I can't go to London for our global meeting. Actually really bummed. I found that out on Monday. It's just a little bit too late for London. I'd already said no to some other people. I mean, I personally feel like I would have more value than some of the people going, but that's not for me to say. And also, I'm like probably the lowest on the totem pole. Yeah. So I don't have an invite. So I'm not going to London. But it means, and I'm not going to the gala, which is the same day as London, actually. So maybe I'll do some South by Southwest stuff. Austin's a fun city. Austin's the only city where you can be like, hey, I found this really cool thing to do. You want to do this? And somebody's like, that sounds cool, but what about this? We can do it on rollerblades. uh, so yeah, that's gonna be my weekend, my South by Southwest. So have a good weekend, and let me know what you guys are doing.